Oh, this is what the drive looks like.
We're trying to get to Biscayne National Park, and it's got us zigzagging around this palm tree farm. And these roads are insanely terrible and narrow and rough out in the middle of nowhere. Evidently, this is the route to Biscayne. All right, thanks. So I'm doing 5 miles per hour on this road. It is so rough back there.
Camper coming.
Probably shaking our camper to death. We'll see if there's another way, but the truck seems to be routing us this way because of all these farm fields. And this road, I don't know if it's been touched in years. It's so bad. So I think this is our 4th national park in the last handful of months so far. Yeah, I think so. So this is Biscayne National Park. And there's no campground at Biscayne National Park, but we wanted to swing by on our way down to South Florida, and I'm glad that we did. Biscayne's interesting. 95% of the national park is actually water or underwater. It's 172,000 acres total, and only 5% is on land. Largest marine national park in the U.S. National Park System, and it protects the northernmost Florida Keys and the 3rd largest coral reef in the world. It is the only place in the continental U.S. where a living coral reef is this close to the mainland. And they have 4 ecosystems in one park, it says: mangrove forest, Biscayne Bay, coral limestone keys, and then the offshore reef. And it's got the longest stretch of mangroves on Florida's east coast. And the mangroves, if you're not familiar, they act as a natural storm barrier, and they hold the shoreline together, so they're very important. And then the keys, Elliott Key, Boca Chica, etc., are ancient fossilized coral reefs from about 100,000 years ago. And evidently there's over quite a history of shipwrecks here, over 50 documented historic shipwrecks. Maritime Heritage Trail lets people snorkel some of them, so if that's your thing, if you're into snorkeling, they got some pretty cool stuff going on with the shipwrecks. And then they also have an area called Stiltsville, where there are 7 surviving houses built on stilts in the 1930s and the 1940s. Evidently, it was once an offshore partying, gambling club. There was a whole movie in the visitor center about it, but just kind of a Playboy Central, evidently, just off the coast there. And they have the seagrass meadows that filter the water, make it super clear around the national park. And it's home to over 200 fish species, sea turtles, manatees, baby sharks. And it's one of the few places that American crocodiles, not just alligators, live in the United States. You can sometimes see the Miami skyline and reef edge from the same spot on a clear day. We were fortunately enough to be there on a day like that we could see Miami. It was pretty neat. And then they said more fish species in the seagrass here than bird species in the entire Everglades, which is interesting. And the park is not far from Miami, I think just 20-30 minutes south of downtown Miami. So not too far of a trip. So we come in, we come from the north, of course, coming down to Biscayne, and the truck routes us off the highway. And we start going through these farm-like areas. I say farm, like tree farms, palm tree farms. And holy cow, were these roads bad. I mean, the worst roads I've ever driven on, probably without a trailer, but pulling the RV, definitely the worst. Do not follow your GPS coming into this park. I think the Cybertruck uses Google Map data, from what I understand, or it used to, but do not follow your GPS. We were routed, like I said, around the nursery of Palm Tree Farm. It's not suitable for towing an RV. I wouldn't even take these roads without an RV. It was that bad. At the visitor center here at Biscayne, luckily we made it. The roads coming in around these farms were worst roads I've ever seen. But it looks like they've got 2 EV chargers here. I don't know if I can show you or not. Just a sec. I did talk to one of the park rangers once we got to Biscayne, and she kind of chuckled a little bit and said, I don't know why the GPS does that, but a lot of people get routed that way. And they should go around. So check your route. Probably your first route is going to be the wrong one, and you want to go a little bit around and down to get onto some main roads, because it was insane. Luckily, no damage as far as I know. I mean, we were crawling through some of the sections. You know, some of them were 20 mile per hour. Then I was down to like 3 and 4 mile per hour through some of these potholes in different areas. It was in the worst roads I've ever seen. And I guess they have a lot of farm equipment out there, but it's even bad in my opinion for farm equipment. But when we got into Biscayne, I was able to, they had a small little parking lot. They did have a couple spots marked off for an RV or a bus. Not a ton. It is kind of tight. I mean, you're kind of out there surrounded by water. I'm sure there's bigger rigs coming through there than us. But we were able to find a spot in the back of the parking lot. Luckily, the park wasn't that busy. We're just kind of recently after the government shutdown, so I'm not sure if that played a part, but luckily we were able to get a spot. And then we walked Lily real quick outside the camper and put her back up in the truck and then grabbed a quick bite to eat before we headed over to the visitor center. Hopped back in the camper here in the parking lot of the visitor center. I'm just going to make a quick sandwich and get to exploring a little bit, see what they have. Luckily, got in the parking lot okay, but it is a little small. Signage out front on the wall and fish and metalwork, neat stuff. And then they had right off the back of that building, there's a full marina. It looked like they did obviously some boat tours and different things if you have time. They did have some different boats tied up. I'm not sure exactly what all that works or how all that goes, but and then we saw a few lizards, of course, as expected down here. And then we headed into the main area, which is upstairs of the visitor center, and we met a couple of the rangers there. Not the biggest visitor center like some of the ones we've been to, especially for a national park, but they had a few aquariums. They had a room of displays and different like things you could interact with, and obviously a history of the park, which is still neat. We try to take all that in and go through it, especially with my son, and pay attention to some of the details in what they have to offer about this specific park, which is neat. And then, of course, we always try to get our passport stamped at the national parks. I actually forgot it in the RV and had to run back out to the parking lot. No big deal, but we get our stamps from each national park. It's just a way to keep track. There's a few different books out there that you can buy or people buy. We like the one that's a passport. It's a little bit smaller and compact and has a place for each national park. As I mentioned earlier, the mangrove trees are all over the place. This whole park's surrounded. I presume this area gets pretty wet with the King's Tide, but it was pretty low while we were there. There was a lot of like damp spots, like even up about the parking lot. I'm curious to see how high the water rises around the parking lot, or if it goes up and over the parking lot from time to time, just because of how it's all, you're sitting out here open to the water. As I mentioned, they had the movie playing in the visitor center, so we sat down, right? So we did a little bit of everything in the visitor center. We sat down this movie, and they start talking about Stiltsville. As I mentioned earlier, there's currently seven surviving houses built on stilts in the 30s and 40s for partying and gambling and who knows what. But then the video start talking about some topics that I don't really think are kid friendly. Just a heads up if you have young ones. Maybe good for the parents, but they were getting into some of the risque behavior and what was going on, and some of the vocabulary that was being used was actually it made me laugh. I don't think my son noticed, but my wife and I were laughing, and we thought we were going to learn about nature, but no, it was about how to party in the 40s and get away with it, I guess. So we didn't stay too long for that movie, but we did pick up, as we always try to at the national parks, a Junior Ranger booklet. So they have, each national park is a little bit different, and they have different programs, but they'll have some type of Junior Ranger package, and they'll have that your kids can do a certain amount of pages and documents in the booklet, or whatever the requirement is. And I think they have them for different age tiers. And we were able to grab that and go and kind of get started on some of so you could earn his badge. And on the back of the visitor center, there's a nice lookout. You're on the second floor. You can see the marina and the water. And as I mentioned, it was a nice and clear day while we were there, and you could see Miami across the water real easy. Which was cool. Evidently on some of the cloudier days you can't see that far, but it was neat. And then of course more iguanas running around out back. We grabbed a picnic table down by the marina right by the coast, so my son could get started on the Junior Ranger book and earn his badge. And there's a boardwalk right there. I checked out a little bit while he was working on that. I saw some fish near shore. the water's so clear you can see pretty much everything. And then a boat tour had come back in at that time where we were. It sounded like it went out in that morning, so something to check out if you're interested. I know they have a handful of other programs too, snorkeling, and there may be some scuba diving things that are offered. And they had some other boats docked there, like I said, so I'm not sure if they're rentable or if they go out on charters or how all that works. But we didn't. We stayed on shore, and there's, like I said, this park is majority underwater, so if scuba and snorkeling is your thing, there's going to be a ton more stuff to do than just stay on shore. But we had a great time either way. Like I said, the boardwalk is a raised wooden path over the mangroves. We were able to take that. They had some fixed binoculars you could look out over the water towards Miami, or kind of, it didn't take any coins, so it was free. And the boardwalk's just a short little loop, like less than half a mile, I think. Easy walk, flat and easy. And then obviously all the mangroves below. The cool thing about the mangroves, when we learn about being southern Florida, is they act like snorkels. So the trees can breathe in the salt water, and that's essentially what the mangrove, meaning that they're able to survive in the salt water. Not all trees can. You may have seen parts where a hurricane has hit and waters have risen and trees have died off. Usually that's related to the salt water surging and the trees not being able to handle it. Now mangroves, they can handle it. And then the boardwalk ends into a small little fishing pier, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize they would let you fish in the national park right there. There's certain signs that don't let to, but as soon as you get to the fishing pier, there's a sign that allows the fishing. And I don't think you even need a license to fish inside the park boundaries, from what I'm told. But a good spot to see tarpon, snapper, mullet, different things, different fish in the water. And then right past the pier, this was really cool, starts the Convoy Point, they call Convoy Point jetty. It's a long, rocky limestone walk stretching into Biscayne Bay. The limestone is essentially fossilized coral reef. It's awesome. It's very old, 100,000, 150, 125,000 years old or something like that, I recall. And the jetty is the farthest you can walk into the bay from the mainland without a boat. So we didn't get in the water, but we took this all the way to the edge as far as we could. And you're going to see different things. They got pelicans. They said we didn't see a whole lot of big fish, but they're supposed to be nurse sharks, barracuda, and some manatees. We did not see any manatees either. And you can see Miami right there as well, which is cool. But the whole area, the boardwalk, the pier, the jetty, it's the only mainland hiking trail in the entire park. It's all free, open sunrise to sunset, so there was no cost to get in and do that, which is neat. Small, like I said, parking lot's not huge, but the land part of the national park's not huge either. But we did see quite a few fish off the jetty. I think we saw some needlefish hanging out and some different things. There were some boats coming and going. But we took it all the way to the end, the jetty, and cool lookout point. The coral limestone keys you could see further off, which was pretty cool. Spent some time out there. It was good. It's good views. Good spot. And then we headed back inside so my son could do his Junior Ranger badge program. He completed his booklet, of course, and went in, got sworn in. He got his Junior Ranger badge, which he was pumped. And then I think the visitor center closed at 5, so we got finished up just before that. So if you're trying to make a day out of it and you're staying on land, you can spend a few hours there. And if you're going out in the boat or doing the snorkeling or the diving or something, that's going to be much longer. Just leaving Biscayne National Park. Pretty cool little spot. I think they've got a lot of scuba diving and snorkeling things that we didn't take part in, but visitor center, and they have a pretty cool boardwalk and fishing pier, and able to check some different things out. So next stop is our harvest host for the night, and then onward to the Everglades National Park. So we left Biscayne, but we didn't have our next campground booked until the next night. So we needed to find a place to stay. So my wife found us a neat little harvest host spot down the road, just like 15 minutes. And it was called Schnebly Redland's Winery and Brewery. It's the southernmost winery in America. It's in Homestead, Florida, the Redlands. No grapes. So all wines from tropical fruits, mango, passion fruit, avocado, etc. Fruit wine, not grape wine.
If you love fruit wine as much as I do.
And also it was the home of the Miami Brewing Company and Winery, and they have craft brewery combo is what they were mentioned. It was founded back in 2005 by Mr. and Mrs. Schnebly, and they started it to use excess fruit from their farm, evidently. A lot of farms in this area. But it's really stunning grounds, coral waterfalls, tiki huts, palm canopies. They have a restaurant on site, a winery on site, a brewery on site, live music, evidently, dance nights. They hold events, evidently, there for weddings and whatnot. But it kind of feels like a tropical oasis, just like 45 minutes from Miami. You're kind of out in the country, out in the farm field. But super cool harvest host spot. If you recall, Harvest Host is something we pay about $150 a year to be a member holder, and we get to stay at different businesses, wineries, golf courses, drive-in movie theaters, all different things, usually for one night. As part of that, you don't have to pay the host of the spot, but what you're supposed to do is spend money there, right? Go to dinner, buy a bottle of wine, something like that. But it's really nice. It's just a way to stay different places without having to look for a parking lot or a rest area. But yeah, cool Harvest Host spot, huge parking lot for RVs. I mean, they probably could have fit 30, 40 rigs back here. It's in a huge side field that I'm guessing they use for overflow parking for events and so forth. But really cool. When we got there, unfortunately, they were closed. We showed up on a weekday, and I think they had closed at 5. I believe they're open much later on the weekends because we were hoping to spend some time on the patio at that point. And yeah, we participated the next day in the afternoon and went into the winery. It was cool. They had a bar sitting there, bottles of wine, craft beer for sale, cigars, snacks, merchandise, of course, and then out back of it. Looked really fun. It wasn't busy at all while we were there, but they had tables and waterfalls. If it would have been open the night before, we would have definitely hung out back by the water features. It was really cool. And then I think I got a little bit of footage of the wedding venue. So if you're in the area or wanting to book an event, I think that place looks pretty rad. Parking's wide open, and they definitely have the space to host. We purchased some wine and some craft beers to take with us, kind of part of the Harvest Host, patronized the business setup. And then we headed out shortly after our visit to the winery. Getting ready to get out of this Harvest Host spot. I forgot to mention we are able to plug into the back of the Cybertruck with the 240 outlet, so pretty convenient. We still have solar and some batteries that do a pretty good job, but just top everything off, or if you want to plug it in overnight or whatever the case may be, it's convenient. But so it was a one night stop over there, but it was fun. But I think overall this video, Biscayne's a cool national park that's mostly underwater. So if you're a scuba or like to snorkel, I think there's so much more to see and probably a whole lot going on. This is, I think I read some stats that this national park gets passed over quite a bit just because most of it being underwater, number one, and not really a campground setup. So I recommend stopping by, make a day out of it kind of a thing, and you'll enjoy it. And the Harvest Host at Schnebly's was a really cool spot. I wish we were there while they were open at night, but maybe next time. But yeah, up next, so we stopped at Biscayne as our 4th national park on our way to our 5th national park, where we're going to head down almost for a week down to the Everglades National Park, all the way to the south point of Florida in the Flamingo Campground, all the way down. So working on getting that one out next. And if you're still with me, I appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.